And I just want to welcome you guys to this webinar here in this month of love, where it's a lot easier to be resentful and frustrated than to be loving. And since this is an open forum, we will certainly talk during this webinar about what keeps us from being loved and loving other people, and having all of the incredible benefits that come from it, which is the subject we're going to discuss here, the neurophysiology of love. And I think for me, and perhaps for you too, what keeps me from being loving, uh, fully loving 150% of the time is the ego. So this webinar is designed to give the ego some better understanding, if it doesn't already have it, of what those extraordinary benefits of love are. So other people will join us as we go on, but for right now, I'd just like to share my screen and start this slideshow called, of course, The Neurophysiology of Love, with the evolving, revolving brain, from neurotransmitters to cosmic consciousness. And of course, we're going to see lots of reasons, scientific reasons, during this webinar as to why and how the brain and the body all manage to optimize in the face of love. But the main thing is that we're also going to look at some brainwave patterns that will bring everything right on down to you. And so if you don't agree with some of the philosophy that I have developed out of the scientific facts, then hopefully we'll prove it to you right on the mind mirror. So I want to start with the Institute of Heart Math. Pretty much everyone by now knows that Heart Math did some of the most important and earliest research into the effect of care, compassion, appreciation, and love on the heart. Back, I don't know when it was, maybe the early 2000s when they first came out with the M wave, they had all this research, and this is one of their classic illustrations here, how incoherence, frustration, anxiety, worry, and irritation cause the heart to show all these peaks and valleys and this not sine wave-like pattern of the pulse rate, which goes here from 60 to 85. From here it goes from 60 to 90 in a very irregular pattern, but here it's more like the sine wave. And what they found is that positive emotions, appreciation, love, care promote optimal performance of the heart. And at that point, I suppose that scientists had already been studying, but now researchers began to study in earnest. And this says a study examining HRV while reciting rosary or bead prayers and yoga mantras found that a coherent rhythm was produced by rhythmically breathing to a breathing pattern of 6 cycles per minute. But in a study of the effects of 5 types of prayer on HRV, it was found that all types increased cardiac coherence, but prayers of gratefulness and heartfelt love resulted in definitely higher coherence levels. And that is really what made Heart Math famous, the idea that you could increase your HRV. Most people know what HRV is, but just to repeat, these are, I think you call them Pearson rays, Gary. It's showing Zen meditation versus normal rest. And here is that more sine wave-like pattern and a high HRV rate, where the peak and the valley, there are a lot of numbers there. Showing that the heart, the intervals between the peaks and valleys are steady, and that the heart is stable, and that there is high HRV. And so studies on meditation and heart rate typically do show a more sine wave-like pulse rate and increases in heart rate variability. Heart coherence and high HRV for us in the mind mirror above 5 or 6 means the nervous system is in good health and able to withstand stressors. Stressors can be internal, of course, but they can also be external. If you have to pick up a heavy box, for example, your heart rate is going to speed up during the exertion and then should slow down fairly quickly after the exertion moment takes place. When the heart rate variability is not good, then it takes longer for the heart to stabilize. And that's a precursor of illness, heart problems, shortness of life. HRV has become highly studied by pretty much everyone. And biofeedback specialists are seeing a real surge in people who are asking to be trained for HRV. For our purposes, though, what is even more interesting is the idea that the heart is a pump, and the pump is producing a mechanical activity that has an electromagnetic effect. And that effect is to produce electromagnetic waves that resonate. They resonate throughout the body. The heart cavity is a large one, not as large as the abdominal cavity, but certainly larger than the skull, which is another major cavity in the body. And the heart has, as is pretty well known, 5,000 times more electromagnetic power than the brain. So when the heart is pumping out these waves, inevitably the brain waves entrain to that rhythm. So if you have a steady, even, stable heart rate with presumably high heart rate variability, the result of meditation, then your brain waves are certainly going to entrain to a more sine wave-like activity and produce what we call coherence, which really means organized, synchronized, balanced, orderly, and would be what you could easily call optimal functioning for both the heart and the coherent brain. Following this line of energetics, we can say that heart-brain coherence amplifies the human energy field. This is well known. This is scientific fact. And it really relies on the concept that when energy fields that are coherent come into contact with one another, there is an amplification effect. In the human body, this field can range out to 3 meters, which is 9 feet. Most of the time you hear 8 feet, but really this is quite an extensive biofield, and it's the biofield of coherence. So of course we have a biofield all the time, but that biofield, if you are in a very bad mood, or are feeling depressed or anxious, that biofield is very far from coherent, and other people feel it. And of course, you yourself have felt the biofields of people, whether you pass them on the street or whether you live with them. And it's not pleasant at all, is it? Nobody wants it. And sometimes you can feel your heart twisting or clutching when you encounter someone who has a high level of incoherence. It's not only our own fears and our own issues, our own anxieties that create our incoherent fields. It's actually contact with other people. But if you can manage through feelings of love and caring and appreciation in your heart during meditation or just in a 60-second timeout, to produce a coherent heart pattern, a sine wave-like pattern, and that pattern does amplify, or those waves do amplify toward and into your brain, even into that larger abdominal cavity of the gut, and then resonate throughout the body, then the result is that coherent energy harmonizes, repairs, regenerates, and evolves. And this is because the heart really is a transducer. If you have studied anything about the chakra system, then you know that the heart is considered to be the center between the lower chakras and the upper chakras, these three. These are considered to be the material world chakras, This relates to physical life. This is to the emotions. This is to the mind, all of our physical being. And then you have the throat chakra that relates to how you speak, how people speak to you, um, how you interpret, perceive your interactions with other people. Of course, that happens on the physical, emotional level too, but still, when you're in meditation and you hear a voice and you respond to that voice, it's going to be in this chakra or spinning wheel of energy. Of course, each of these chakras is associated with a major endocrine gland. This is the thymus here. This one here in the third eye area, this is the pineal gland, which is also associated with the pituitary, and we're going to especially look at those two. And then the crown chakra at the top of the head. It's believed that spiritual energy or light enters the crown, although some say also here in the sacral chakra. However, you perceive where light enters in, or even if you believe that that does occur, the heart is in the center as the transducer from the lower frequency to the higher frequencies. And so a transducer is just that changes electrical energy to a different form, or in the case of the chakras, a higher frequency, because these are going from the lowest to higher frequencies. And as a transducer, it is responsible for and active in the changes that occur when the biofield amplifies. And remember, we're talking about this amplification beginning with the coherence of love or feelings of love. And the first thing that happens is in this area of the third eye, where if you are a meditator, you already know that sensations of light occur here and here in the crown back here, and in the third eye. You can feel that light moving, and sometimes people will have visions or see lights and colors in here. When that's happening, the pineal gland is being affected. You see the pineal is right here between the third eye and the occipitals that we're measuring in the back of the head, where vision is processed. And so when there are changes in light, be it natural light, artificial light, or inner light that occurs because you've had a biofield amplification, or you're placing your mind on something that will cause a biofield amplification, then the pineal immediately begins to affect the pituitary gland, which is the master gland. And all kinds of wonderful things happen when that occurs. So the pineal gland, activated by light, meditation, and the bioenergetic field amplification, is actually moving us toward an awareness of the quantum field, or the source, or God, or however you want to perceive it, but something that is universal, cosmic in awareness and our awareness of it. It signals and stimulates the pituitary, and it produces three primary neurotransmitters that expand perceptions and elevate awareness. The first of them is the molecule of happiness, which is serotonin. It plays roles in sleep, memory, learning, mood, behavior, heart function, endocrine regulation. And endocrine meaning all of the glands in the body. And so now this molecule of happiness is thus connected with regulating those glands that are associated with the chakras. So serotonin itself is a modulator from the physical to potentially something non-physical in nature. And then melatonin, the pineal also produces melatonin. Usually serotonin decreases at night when the pineal begins to produce melatonin. Therefore, it's associated with sleep, dreams, rest, regeneration, DNA repair, and replication. And because melatonin is moderating those functions, it simultaneously is modulating the descent into slower brainwave frequencies of alpha, theta, and delta. And then the third neurotransmitter that the pineal produces is DMT, dimethyltryptamine, which is called the spirit molecule. Uh, it is believed to be the medium of profound lucid gamma imagery and extrasensory experiences. Most people take DMT, which is ayahuasca, it's a precursor of ayahuasca, in sacred ceremonies, and have the most extraordinary experiences. But the truth is that we have it right here in our own bodies. It has been found, or originally was thought to have been produced by the body at the moment of death. So it is another transducer. DMT is potentially a vibrational shift from the human to non-physical worlds. But the thing is, here we are, we have it, and it's there all the time, and it can be and is activated by the pineal gland during meditative and ecstatic states. So the pineal triggers the pituitary, which is the master gland. I read somewhere that the heart, when it is activated and moving into coherence, releases 1,300 to 1,400 different chemicals. Well, the pituitary as a neurotransmitter does this same thing, only releasing hormones. And oxytocin is the most famous one, the love chemical. That chemical seeps into the amygdala, which, as you know, is the center of fear, pain, anger, all sorts of negative emotions, and it neutralizes them. Oxytocin dilates the heart and lungs, improves the function of the whole heart and circulatory system. And when that happens, it brings about this wonderful sense of inner peace and joy. And that whole heart center, the chakra, awakens with gratitude for being alive. And the heart center as that resonator and also that transducer influences all of the energy centers, the lower chakras, the upper chakras, just the whole energy of the system. You yourself know what it feels like to fall in love. Everything gets brighter. Suddenly the sun is brighter. Everything around you comes alive. Well, that's oxytocin. And other chemicals like serotonin, things that are occurring simultaneously. And then oxytocin itself produces benzodiazepine, which sedates the neocortex and relaxes us into the present moment. And interestingly, vasopressin, which allows cells to store more water so that those cells are able to become more electrically activated by virtue of being able to have more water and electricity being conducted by water. So when they have more water, to store more water, they're able to produce and resonate more coherent light and information. Everybody, I think, remembers the Japanese Emoto? Masaru Emoto, who did all the studies with water and found that water store energetic signatures. Take those signatures from one molecule to another by resonance, by that wave power. So if you're in an ecstatic state, then that's going to move from cell to cell. So what I basically wanted to show with this slide is the idea that, yes, we have a biofield, which typically is pictured as extending this 9 feet circumference around us. But in actuality, we, like everything else in nature, or a torus. And the torus is a closed, self-sustaining system that represents the perfection of energy flow. The energy flows through one vortex, moves along the axis, goes out the second vortex, wraps back around the circumference, and passes again through the original vortex. And the torus is believed to be nature's perfectly balanced dynamic energy flow process. And so in terms of the subtle energy centers, well, that orbit is going from the crown to the root and back up and down. and in brainwave frequencies from the highest to the lowest frequencies. We do see many times that when you're producing delta, and connecting with your body, that this triggers gamma. So this is a toroidal activity that I believe this is my philosophy, I believe is what explains why delta and even theta can trigger and do often trigger gamma. And so if we are all toroidal fields, not just 9 feet out, but potentially, if you're coherent, much, much wider, how beautiful to be a perfect, closed, self-sustaining system that is going to intersect with and interact with other fields. I brought this slide up because you might ask, well, so what's the point of having a coherent energy field that expands out more and more and is self-sustaining? Well, because as an entity, that means that we're operating in more dimensions, not just in our beta in the material world, but certainly in our delta and its connection with the immaterial world, the spiritual world, you could call it. And so what is the evolution of consciousness? What does it mean to evolve your consciousness? Well, not just my viewpoint, but as I discovered at a Paris conference a few years ago, I've been using this for 25 years to explain the evolution of consciousness, but 3 other presenters, all scientists, were using the electromagnetic wave spectrum. So I felt for those years like I was standing on the edge of a limb, and, and was putting all these concepts together, and maybe not being a scientist, it was just my imagination, but it's actually not. And more people are talking about this now. So what is the bottom line of this show here is that love resonating through the heart and in a sine wave-like pattern that is coherent will resonate out into the brain and ultimately every cell of the body and optimize the body-mind. And by harmonic resonance, that will upgrade us beyond this tiny sliver of frequencies that we operate in, which are visible light, into higher frequencies and potentially lower frequencies too. There's nothing to say that we don't actually expand in both directions, and there's something to say, actually, there's some evidence that we've seen with the mind mirror to say that we do expand in both directions, because people who start moving up into gamma frequencies, some of them have difficulty with microwaves, radio waves, computers, and so forth. How do we know that this is true? Well, I'll tell you how I figured it out to start with, is because when I began to see that purple light flashing in my forehead during meditation, it was always followed by feelings of light, sensations of light, and feelings of bliss. And that's what just literally everyone reports. It's a 5,000-year-old, maybe 6 by now, tradition of the Hindus, the philosophy of chakras, and the Chinese even older with meridians, the whole idea that the body is a battery, that we are electromagnetic beings who are tuning in to higher concepts or lower concepts, that we live on a spectrum and that we can make a change as to how we experience that spectrum. And what they all report is that bliss lies in these higher frequencies. So there has got to be a shift into the higher frequencies. I want to show you some evidence of that on the mind mirror. This is a meditation that I did to one of my own meditations, and this is a screenshot from the mind mirror portal. I love this meditation. I've talked about it before. It's so simple, but if you go on down into the lower frequencies, it becomes very, very real to you. And if your heart is open to the possibility of higher awareness, it doesn't matter how you perceive that angel, or whether you're even on the bridge What matters is that you're being given an instruction to connect with something that will stir feelings of love and light within you. And so that's what this meditation did for me. It says here, the instruction in the meditation is you land on the bridge gracefully and the angels land with you. Somehow they seem more radiant now. You look down at your arms and see light streaming from you too. So by now you've gone to a temple on a cloud and have met with your higher self. And on the way back, the angels didn't have to help you fly. You yourself could fly. And so my remarks were that I saw myself radiating light and felt blissful, ecstatic. The beauty of the music filled me with love. I just love these singing angels in this meditation. Waves of bliss cascaded through my body. And look at the mind mirror pattern. So I have a little bit of upper gamma here to start with. But at the time between 2801 and 2839, look at the gamma surge. Massive gamma surge. And what made the gamma surge? Well, connecting with that light. I'm first looking down at my arms. Here's the delta surge because I'm connecting with my physical body, triggers, trips the gamma surge. I'm connecting with the concept of light and I'm feeling love. And so I broke this down into a few patterns to show you the progression during that particular segment. So I've just got here a little bit of gamma, basically an awakened mind pattern here at 28:38. 2 seconds later, this gamma surges, and then there's a partial evolved mind pattern 4 seconds later on the right. 10 seconds later, this flares out into an almost evolved mind and even an almost more of an evolved mind 1 second later. And then a few more seconds later, you can see that this left brain, which was lagging behind the right brain in terms of forming the evolved mind circle, is now getting its own dose. So even the analytical left brain is saying, oh, I want some of this love, light, and unity and harmony, and I'm have less amplitude here because, what's really happening, the left brain is probably saying, cataloging this, oh, I do see the light, or, oh, I am starting to feel the bliss. But here the left brain is giving up its dialogue and it's flaring out with the same, presumably, feeling of unity as the right brain had to begin with, all triggered by this gamma. So here again, we're seeing, as I've said so many times before, the gamma being, and Max Cade wrote in his book, well, he didn't really write it in his book. He had it in a single line below a mind mirror graph in the back of his book. And I take him at his word and have certainly seen this in the mind mirror over and over and over again. And it's that the higher frequencies stabilize, inform, and stabilize the lower frequencies. So if you compare this pattern and this pattern with this pattern, that's just an awakened mind. That's a far more advanced pattern than that is. The advancement came because of the surge of gamma. How I found this, I just found this today. I was working on this PowerPoint show this morning. As I went into the Mind Mirror portal, and at the point, I looked in this composite display, and you can see that there are some gamma flares down here. There's a few little peaks, but not much, not much. It's pretty steady on. But then I saw this one gamma flare here. So I moved the cursor over to here, and you can see that that's the awakened mind pattern I just showed you. And then I looked in this little portion that said what was happening in the language, and that was where I found that gamma flare that led to those evolved mind patterns. And in fact, the mind mirror summary for this whole session was, not all that evolved, because this was really a moment of an aha that lasted for, I don't know, 10, 15, well, I guess about a minute. This is 29 minutes, maybe 28, 30. This is 29, maybe 30 seconds, a little less than 30 seconds. I really just have a 97% awakened mind and only a 46% gamma synchrony. There is gamma present. Anything above 30% gamma synchrony is substantial. We consider it to be at training level 5. But the whole point being that we in the mind mirror actually see everything that I've been mentioning to you. This is the last one I wanted to show you. Even on the mind mirror, we can and do see that love heals, unites, heals, and evolves us with light. In our relationships with other people, when that oxytocin becomes active, in our relationship with ourself, when we feel that inner peace, when there's an amplification of light, when that Taurus powers up and evolves us because we're moving into higher frequencies and more coherent frequencies, simply by the power of love. Did I convince anybody there? Ah, Herb, you're the hardcore scientist. All right, let's have some feedback from you, Herb, because this is an open forum. We want everybody to speak.
A lot of the analogies bother me. For example, the gamma rays have nothing to do with your gamma frequencies. You only did that by
Right.
analogy.
Right.
So that you almost equated them, and then that sort of bothered me.
Yeah, I didn't mean to do that literally. I just meant that above higher frequencies above the visible light, nowhere in the gamma. We would be incinerated if we were trying to do gamma rays. Right.
Right. It's by analogy. And I assume when you're talking about higher vibrational state, you're also speaking as an analogy, not that there's actually a literal vibration as there is in your gamma frequencies in the brain and so on.
Yeah.
And again, I take things literally as a small s skeptic, but nevertheless there. I've been meditating now for a few months. I've never experienced any of that.
What is your experience in meditation?
Actually, I sleep better. That's good.
Yeah, that melatonin then.
That could be, but the other stuff, and I'm working with someone who's teaching me. It's a transcendental meditation type meditation, which I have the patience for.
Yeah, that's good. And different types of meditation. This is why I wrote on that slide that studies on meditation and heart rate typically say that there's an increase in HRV and more coherence, because different types of meditation produce different activities. Obviously, if you're repeating a mantra for the period of which you're exercising your beta brain waves to process that word, then your heart is probably not going to reach its lowest and slowest pulse rate. So yeah, some of those studies even disagree. But I want to circle back about the vibration. And actually, there is a good bit of evidence now that people are raising their vibrations. And how we can see that is through biophotons, as that there are photomultipliers, and both with meditators and healers, and also the copper wall, I might say, at the Monroe Institute. When you are in a room that is sealed off in complete and total darkness, and it's being monitored by a photomultiplier, and you move into a higher state of consciousness, and you do feel some sensations of bliss, there is an increase in the photons of light in the room. The body actually emits more photons, and they have mapped that. the Rhine Center, Research Center down at Duke University, is one of the leaders in that research. So there is a shift and a change in vibrations, and we do see that in different ways. Even the copper walls, I said at the Monroe Institute, is seeing people produce more voltage during meditation and healing, and and also you can go back all the way to Valerie Hunt. I know that the chakras are a source of controversy. I don't even like to bring them up most of the time because, as far as I know, there's only been one credible study, and that has been by Valerie Hunt at UCLA, who did map the energy of the chakras. I know that there are a lot of machines out now, like the BioWell and others, that probably real and true and dependable. And we do see, I mean, I've been at the Monroe Institute and been mapped on the BioWell in 3 different situations. I wanted to give it a good test. And I found that 2 people's meditations and 2 people's guidance was nowhere near as effective in aligning my chakras on that BioWell as my own meditation, where I felt a huge change in consciousness. So I'm not saying I don't believe, I actually do believe in these things, but hardcore scientists do question them. Gary, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I just put my hand up just for the fun of it. I just wanted to add something to your discussion on vibrations. I don't know if you're familiar with Penrose Hammerhoff theory of microtubulins in quantum consciousness, if you've run across that. But
Please do talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at the frequencies within the cell and within the microtubulin, and now this theory was promoted or proposed, let's say, 30 years ago, and they've been slowly putting all their ducks in a row. And this year, they actually have a testable hypothesis of whether or not this is going to work. So we're at a point right now where we're going to see whether or not their theory is actually true. But the idea is that the microtubulin at the quantum level interact with the quantum field to produce, or let's say correlate with consciousness, whether it's actually producing consciousness or awareness, or whether it's just correlated with it, but it's functioning at the quantum level. But what they have proposed, and I have a chart on this someplace, is that, you know, our EEGs run at the 10 to the first or 10 to the second power. When you start looking at the microtubulin and start breaking them down, they work at the 10 to the third, 10 to the sixth, 10 to the ninth, and 10 to the 12th power and frequencies. And so the 10 to the 12th is an extremely high frequency. And so, you know, as, let's say, as we're tuning ourselves into these different levels, there may be actually, we're becoming more aware of these different levels of vibrational frequencies. Just to, you know, throwing that out as an idea. I don't know, there's no way of testing it for sure at the moment, but those frequencies have been mapped and they are correct. So maybe that has something to do with the vibrational experiences that you're talking about, maybe not.
Interesting.
The other thing is that on the DMT, I kind of got interested in, you know, the whole pineal gland and the DMT thing, and started doing some research on that. And what I found was that actually all the cells in the body produce DMT. And the primary source of DMT is the lungs. And the function that they think of, this is endogenous DMT, not what you know, drink, smoke, or inject. The endogenous DMT's function is to protect the cell against hypoxia. And so what happens, my thought was that when you're drowning, since the lungs are the primary source of DMT, that you get a surge of that in a drowning experience where people experience, you know, great peace and, you know, love and joy and see the clear white light and so on. Anna reported something like this with one of her near-death drowning experiences. And I've read this elsewhere by other people who've had similar experiences. So that might be related to release of the DMT from the lungs, which are, you know, the body's trying to protect itself against hypoxia in the process. And this is the type of experience that we have from DMT, as we know, because when we inject it. So that's just another thought that I had.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that makes some sense. Yeah, Herb.
Along with the microtubules, isn't part of that theory or hypothesis or wondering that that is the means of connecting to the non-physical where the consciousness really arises? I know that is the thought. I wouldn't know, but that is where we actually connect to the non-physical.
Yeah, I agree. You know, that the idea of consciousness actually arises out of the quantum field, but I don't think, from a scientific point of view, we're there yet. But that's just sort of my gut level feeling, is that it has to come out of the quantum field, and this is the way the neurons actually connect at the level of the quantum field. And so what Penrose and Hammerhoff are suggesting is that at the collapse, at the level of the microtubulin, and an electron passes through the microtubulin, this actually acts as like a little, the brain of the cell itself, and produces the computer which fires off the cell at one level or another, and then they communicate, neurochemically in between that. So we have different levels. So the electrical activity that we're actually measuring with an EEG is at 10 to the 1 or 10 to the 2. But we're not measuring the energy levels of the microtubulin.
Yeah, and no telling how many other systems are involved. I mean, a photon is, whether it's our body's biophotons or whether it's a photon that's floating around on star Vega, it's connected on a quantum level. So, and then of course there's Dean Radin's theory that the unconscious mind is always trolling the collective unconscious for information on a quantum level. I mean, we're connected in so many ways. There's no telling how many actual structures they're going to find in the coming decades and centuries that help us make that connection. But I think it's irrefutable at this point that we do make a connection, that there is a rise in consciousness. I mean, if we see it with the mind mirror. I mean, you just saw it in those changes, those brainwave patterns. We feel it. And for the purposes of this program, the big stimulator, activator of these changes is love, always love, because those gamma frequencies are associated with what? Love, compassion, mystical union, spiritual ecstasy, out of body, not connection with non-physical forces, and all of that can be triggered with love. And so the question now is, why don't we run around feeling love all the time? Who can answer that question?
Well, if you've been following Jeffrey Martin and the Finders, his let's say location 3 is a state in which people get into feelings of oneness and love and compassion for everything. Sort of the St. Francis of Assisi state of mind. And so he's measured people who are in this state and are there most of the time. He says it's not very good for working in corporate capitalism, but it's a nice place to be. And,
or avoiding tigers.
Yes, or avoiding tigers. Well, if you love the tiger enough, he might just lie down in front of you and kiss your feet.
Yum.
Might well. Depends on how coherent the tiger is, I suppose. Yeah, yeah.
or
So why
conquer.
don't we? But why don't we why don't we live in location 3? We already know this, don't we?
Yeah,
Everyone has felt love. Everyone has fallen in love. Everyone knows that you feel love. I mean, I did an interview with somebody yesterday, and found myself at the end of the interview, the guy said, "Oh, well, what are you going to do for the rest of the day?" And I said, "Oh, I'm going to go and pick up a new keyboard that has a MIDI that is going to take my music compositions and write the notes on the sheet for me." And then I said, "Well, I'm going to do that, or I'm going to work on the Neurophysiology of Love PowerPoint." And I heard myself say that, and I went, "No, I'm going to go get the piano, and then I'm going to work on PowerPoint because I'm going to do the experience of the neurophysiology of love and go get my piano, and then I'll come back here and work on the PowerPoint." And that's
yes.
exactly
Have you measured yourself in flow on the piano?
no, but I'm just brand new at the piano, so it probably
Uh,
wouldn't be a very good measurement.
not, not much flow
But
there
I've got
yet.
a lot better. Do, 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 if I hadn't said that to the guy, my ego probably would have made me sit down and work on the PowerPoint show, and I would have been aggravated all the time, worried that the last remaining piano in the music store would be sold to somebody else. So what's your excuse? What's everybody else's excuse? Why are we not living in love all the time, and the flow that comes out of that love and the higher consciousness?
Well, something we've been doing for quite some time. Donna and Carol both studied with Gary Craig way back in the, I don't know, the 60s or 70s, whenever he started doing EFT tapping. And we had incorporated that at a fairly early stage, along with the heart rate variability, because my background's in biofeedback. And in the 90s, the heart rate variability was fairly well known. And we looked for it. We didn't have the heart math train or experience of research that they'd done since then. But as that became more obvious, what we were doing is that we were having people get into the heart rate variability, slow, even breathing, basically just slow, even breathing, and then tapping, on appreciation and gratitude as they were getting into that slow rhythm. We've been doing that for 20 years, ever since we started teaching Anna's work. And so, it's not particularly new, but it really helps people to get into that feeling of appreciation and gratitude and get into that state of mind. And that brings about an increase in alpha almost
Yes,
automatically.
yes, it definitely does. We saw that at Dawson's Open Center, Dawson Church's Open Center seminar, and we've talked about it on webinars before, that basically he just had people tap. It was care, love, and appreciation. And they started that workshop on a Saturday morning. And by Sunday afternoon, 13 people couldn't have been that many. Most of the people had way more eyes open alpha and more gamma. Yeah. So evolutionary effect again for care and appreciation. And we might also add that Dawson's meditation, eco meditation, is based entirely on sending out love to other people and feeling love for yourself. So again, love is the modulator and the moderator. Yeah. Hi,
Yeah.
Donna.
Donna?
Hi, how is everybody?
We're great. I'm trying to get people to say, why are we not living in love? But nobody wants to ante up here.
Oh,
Anybody?
I know a lot of us are not really feeling deserving of the compelling future that we would be living in if we did live in complete love and acceptance of who we are, with self-compassion radiating out to everyone, every single person in the universe. So if if it starts within and we're not able to completely accept ourselves in every way, then it's harder to send that out to everyone. So yeah, we're working on
Beautiful.
that. We're working on it.
That's beautiful, Donna.
I'm going to
Yeah.
drive down to another city. It's about an hour and some minutes away, and go give a couple of treatments. So I have to go, but I thought I'd come and say hi to everyone and bye. Okay, lots of love to you.
Safe journey.
Okay.
Yeah, she's
Yes,
quite correct. She's quite correct in that really what we need to do is begin to clear all of those parts of ourselves that stand in the way of maintaining and feeling, that gratitude and affection and loving kindness. Meditation processes are involved in there, but also, various ways of doing therapy. So, if we do tapping, we release a lot of that if we focus on that in terms of what we're doing. Yeah, I find Dawson has done a lovely job of repackaging everything we taught him. So, we should have thought of that ourselves, but we're not into the marketing end of things. So we've been basically teaching everything that he's teaching now for 20 years. But he had the brilliant idea of repackaging it as a particular form of meditation, but it's really pretty much in line with everything that Anna was doing. Nothing
Yes.
particularly new there.
And all these concepts have been resonating across the planet too for a long time, And I mean, I have to applaud Dawson's brilliance in combining all these concepts as he did. They're just par for the course for us. But once you put them together, those overlapping fields amplified, and boom, he has a wonderful method that's really working for people. Yeah. So anybody else, why do we not live in love all the time? Oksana, good to see you back.
it was switched to, and now feel this unconditional love inside of you. Just feel how you're filled with this unconditional love. And then there was 69 hertz come, bing, and it's like think. And I thought that's amazing proof. I mean, later on, maybe I'll sit and just pull out charts if someone wants. I'm still brewing the idea of running my favorite meditations course with some analysis. So whenever I'm ready, I'll announce that. But I started experimenting, and right into the topic, I can tell that it does, light affects pineal, as we know, and it is reflected in gamma frequencies with the mind mirror. And it is connected to that feeling of kind of you're absorbing this light and you're feeling more love. And of course, she ended the meditation in a beautiful expanded state, feeling much more expanded and bigger and blissful and feeling love and very stable, kind of healthy state. This is true well-being where you can firmly kind of sit in. So I don't know how others would do, but at least I knew this person beforehand, so I knew this would be a good subject, because if there is something there, she will go there. Just bigger, smaller, but she's responsive and flexible enough to open any meditation. And interestingly, when I did a test after, so I decided, okay, I'll just play some music and see how her patterns will behave after the meditation. And it was amazing. She started with basically straight away in the very beginning, the test, she started with awakened mind, even with eyes open. And then pretty much she was going just deeper, but there was no gamma. And she ended up sitting in a circular pattern with gamma on top. So with integrated gamma into universal consciousness. After we finished this connecting with your higher self, she spent the rest of the time, she didn't know even I was recording, her brain was still, and I was like, gee, in a bit I was interested to see after, you know, do after tests. They're just the music playing and see how her brain waves behave. She was stably sitting in universal consciousness pattern. So that was
Fantastic.
so beautiful. I mean, it speaks for itself. It's a very beautiful connected state. Very loving. And my idea was, I told her beforehand, because she recently broke up with her boyfriend, and I said, you know, the best thing that worked for me was go and do this and open this source of love inside of you, that the sun is shining and it shines enough for yourself to heal all your traumas, so you don't feel, you know, in trauma, you healed yourself, and it's enough to shine to everybody else around you. Okay, let's do and open this source of love inside you. It's already there. You probably experience it, but I know this meditation does it, just guaranteed, basically, with a guarantee. So
Perfectly said, Oksana. And, you know, I've seen this in almost every single person. All you do is you start talking about spiritual light in a meditation, and up goes their gamma, or their patterns move toward the evolved mind. If they're open to it, you know, some people. I was at the Monroe Institute one time, and I was leading this super conscious mind retreat, and one of the meditations was it wasn't the wise one, it was something else. It was one of that other group. And I said, so just connect with feelings of love. And somebody came out of that meditation afterwards and said, what do you mean connect with feelings of love? I mean, it was better language than that. He said, how do you just do that? And I wanted to say, how do you not do that? how do you not know what love feels like? And, you know, none of you said that, but some people don't know what love feels like, right? And as a matter of fact, I mean, there's been some difficulty for heart math in terms of saying bring care, love, or appreciation into your consciousness, and that's going to cause heart coherence because it doesn't, and not everybody can remember. So what I had to start saying to try to get that to work for people, which I was doing before they did it, but nevertheless, was remember a time when you were joyful and filled with love and flowing, and that people can remember. Somehow they can remember an incident or an experience with a person, but not just the words. So I think that's a challenge.
When we do, Judith, when we do the tapping with people, part of the setup phrase is we love and appreciate ourselves. And we run in frequently, particularly in guys, who have difficulty saying that. Oh, I can't say I love myself. Oh, no. You know, and we have to like work around that and say, can you say you're okay? You know, or I'm all right, something like that. Just change the phraseology. And then you have to like narrow and zero in on these sort of meta concepts. You know, can you remember a time when you actually felt love for your pet? Did you have a pet? And that sort of thing. And then you begin to work with it that way. I was just listening, I've got to sign off now, but just was listening this morning to the tapping conference that's been going on all week. And one of the women who was speaking had lost her child in Sandy Hook. A 6-year-old was shot. And she was talking about how she used tapping to begin to forgive all that went on, because she had so much anger and so much hurt and so much grief. And, you know, the way they had to work with it with her was to kind of step by step, in small steps, for her to begin to forgive her anger, herself, for all that was going on. And she's, you know, amazingly been able to get through a lot of that. And one of the things that she found out was her 6-year-old, at the time of the shooting, was that the shooter had run out of ammunition. So he took 9 of his classmates out of an area where they were not safe and ushered them quickly into another area where they all survived, but he was shot. By the time the person got, I was, that sort of thing hurts me so much. Just I couldn't listen to it for very long myself because it hurts so much. And it also makes me very angry, which I don't even want to tap on that kind of anger. It's just a righteous anger, particularly to people like, InfoWars. I can't even think of his name. He gets me so upset at times, but people who are in complete denial that all of that was just a
Oh, yeah.
thing. So anyway, the process that she went through with the tapping really helped her to get into a state of more forgiveness and more love and more gratitude, and begin to help her to see a future, because she has an older son also, and she's a single mom. And so, tapping can be a very powerful technique and very helpful in these types of trauma situations, as well as childhood trauma. But they have to be handled by people who really know how to work with that sort of trauma. But when you begin to clear those sorts of things, you can begin to feel those deeper states of love, compassion, gratitude, forgiveness, appreciation, all of the things that we want to, but we have to remove the blocks, the emotional blocks that are there to begin with, to begin to move into these states on a more regular kind of basis.
I agree
So
with
anyway,
you, Gary. I agree with you. And I think that was the guy at the TMI. He just had a terrible block that was keeping him from
yeah,
remembering the feeling of love.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got to run. So it was, lovely seeing you all. Love and light to everybody. And see you next time around.
Thank you. See you. So does anybody have any comments on anything that's been said so far before we
I have a question.
switch to a meditation? Sure.
Who is Dawson that we were talking about?
That's Dawson Church. He is a EFT guru. He's written a bunch of best-selling books, most of which talk about the mind mirror. He wrote about, 15 or 20 pages on the mind mirror in his second to last book, Mind to Matter. Gary and Donna have been assisting him for about 10 years. And then he picked me up along the way. So I started working with people as well. Emma Carr has a question about guided meditation as relating to biofeedback.
Yeah, so thank you so much for the presentation. It was wonderful. Through the books I've been reading about Awakened Mind and the presentations, I still have a bit of a misunderstanding, I think, about the relative role of the actual the classical biofeedback itself, and then, adjuvant measures like guided meditation, visualization. The gentleman brought up tapping as an adjuvant. So help me understand relative, and of course with Max Cade and Anna Weiss's books, that's heavily featured, the guided meditation. So help me understand exactly how much of a role there is with the visual or auditory biofeedback, specifically of the brainwave measurements, and the use of these adjuvant methods. What relative importance do they have? And yeah, so I think you understand what I'm asking.
Yes, I think so. I'll give it a go. I think it's basically the whole concept that we rely on and is derived from studies with the mind mirror, is that while Max and Anna and now we were monitoring people on the mind mirror, it became clear that there are certain meditation structures that can be employed in the meditation that will drop people into lower and slower frequencies. and for healing, transformation, and that you can actually bring the beta frequencies, the conscious mind frequencies, into those low frequency meditation patterns to enhance your personal healing, and that enhancing your healing will move you, as Gary was just saying, removing the blocks will move you into more evolved brainwave patterns, such as that evolved mind pattern that unite you with not just yourself as in the awakened mind, but with something greater than as in the evolved mind. And it's all about the meditation structures. I've been really surprised that I haven't been able to convey somehow since the startup of the meditation center in the Mind Mirror portal in May, that this is the center, that now we have an incredibly powerful tool in all those available recorded meditations, and that this is how the work has been done from the start, not by leaving people to listen to a audio cue that says, yes, you're in the right pattern, a piece of music or a gong sound, although that works. That's the neurofeedback way, that certainly works. But to listen to the meditations and let the meditations guide you into the optimal states. And you can have the gong pattern in the background that's confirming it, but you don't need it, because you can then feel yourself dropping into those deeper states, and you attain that imagery, and then are able to change your consciousness. So it's really all about knowing, as just a quick example, we know that if you focus on your breath, heart coherence certainly results. But what also results is that your voluntary and involuntary nervous systems synchronize. That means that your brain and your body synchronize and become more coherent. And as you withdraw from the outer environment into yourself, that reduces your beta. As we focus you on your sensory awareness, that creates that alpha bridge. As we drop you through either prepositional awareness and a series of prepositions that take you somewhere, you're really just dropping into lower and slower frequencies. As we ask you to connect with the field, that you're going to increase your delta. As we ask you to connect with light, you're going to develop more gamma. Every single one of those steps and stages. I mean, these meditations are very scientifically constructed. And part of the practitioner training is to have people write 6 original meditations, because we want to make sure that they understand how to help people navigate through the frequencies. So this is how it's biofeedback, in the sense that a meditation structure that asks you to do something, you do it, you go there, your brainwaves reflect that. All of that is a biofeedback loop between the speaker, between the brainwaves, between the mind mirror. Does that help? All right, good to see you. Anybody else? And if not, we'll just start on a meditation on love. Shall we then? Shall we dance? Okay, so if you will, please just get comfortable in your chair, close your eyes, and prepare for a journey. As you withdraw from the outside environment, begin to remember what it feels like to be relaxed, what it feels like to be at peace inside yourself. What it feels like to enter the depth of meditation. With your eyes closed and softly relaxed, slow your breathing. Relax the back of your tongue. And make sure your whole body is relaxed. from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Scan your body from the inside, shining a light to find any darkened areas of tension. Breathe into those places until your whole body is completely relaxed. Filled with light. Your mind is quiet and still. Your emotions are calm and serene. Your spirit feels very peaceful. From this place of deep peace and relaxation, you can easily look inside your body and get in touch with your heart. Use all of your senses to become aware of your heart, how it looks, sounds, and feels. Is it happy or sad? Calm or afraid? Fulfilled or hungering for something it needs and does not have? Spend a few moments listening to your heart and discovering what it wants or needs to tell you. Now begin to notice the light flowing within and around your heart. This flow of light is your spiritual heart, which some call the soul. That part of you which conveys higher thoughts, feelings, and perspectives to your human heart, and from your human heart to your mind, and from your mind to your body. Search in the light of your spiritual heart for the people you care about the most. You may wish to meditate on people or even animals you know in your present life, or those you love, respect, and admire across the boundaries of time and space. Meditate on several animals or people in turn, and become aware of what it is about them that you value the most, what they contribute to your life, the feelings they evoke in you. If you wish to send love to these people, send it now. And when you are ready, return your awareness to your human heart and allow currents of radiant, unconditional love to flow down from your spiritual heart into your human heart to heal and transform anything that needs healing in you. Allow these light-filled energies to drift down into your mind and circulate throughout your body into every atom and cell. See, hear, feel, even taste and smell the movement of this energy of love. Notice any visions, words, concepts, or body sensations that surface in your awareness. Send these impressions up to your conscious mind for further contemplation later on. It's time now to end your meditation. You may wish to journal about what you have learned. And remember, anytime you feel out of harmony with yourself, return to this practice to give and receive the healing and transformative energies of love. When you're ready to reawaken, you may wish to arouse by wiggling your fingers and toes, taking a few breaths and this gently opening your eyes. So quiet. Would anyone like to unmute and give some feedback on that?
Thank you. That was lovely. Really lovely. And especially to finally tune in and ask what my heart wants to say and just how shy it was. It's like, well, you never ask. Bit of stage fright. Yeah, that was gorgeous. Beautifully paced. Loved it. Thank you.
Appreciate that very, very much.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. Thanks. Just what I needed. Thank you.
Thank you. And Paula?
So the whole time I'm sitting here, I've had creatures walking all over me and digging at me and wanting my attention. And if I can, I don't know if I can do it, but
I saw a kitty earlier.
see
Two
the two in bed
pups.
together? Do you see them in bed
Yes.
together? During the entire meditation, I had absolutely nobody looking for my attention, and my two settled down in bed together, which very rarely happens.
Oh,
So I think, you know, it had an effect on them as well. My energy probably had an effect on them.
that's wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Did anything particular happen to you that you'd like to share?
I, towards the end, I kind of got this awareness that this love is always there for us and we really can't stop it. Almost like the waves in the ocean, it's always coming in. And there's nothing we can really do to stop it. But if we're more aware of it, it's like riding the waves instead of fighting the waves.
Ooh, let's write that down and put it on a bumper sticker. Thank you.
Now they're digging at me again.
That's beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Feel the truth of it. Anybody else?
I had technical problems, so I missed a lot of it. Will this recording be available?
Yeah, it's in the meditation center of the mindmirrorportal.com. But it's also true that a free copy of it will be on this webinar, which Oksana is going to edit. So you could just, when she sends it around, you could just scroll to the portion where we're doing this meditation. Have it that way. You liked it?
Is this a new meditation that you've written, Judith? Yeah, I loved it.
I don't remember really when I wrote it. It's on the, oh, that's sad. It's on the album titled, I think, Pure Consciousness. That's very sad that I don't even remember my own meditations. It's under Higher States and Energy, though. That I do know, which has so many meditations that are all about light. Max's, Anna's, and mine. Yes. Yes, it's on the Star of Pure Love album. The Bridge of Angels is on that album too. And then one called The Star of Pure Love, which has a wonderful healing experience where you go and clear something and then open up to a tunnel of radiant white light. Yeah, so.
That was wonderful. And like obviously this work is closely aligned with the work that Joe Dispenza's doing. And has anyone come across his like supplements for creating more coherence in the heart? And I don't know if it's decalcifying the pineal, but activating it.
Joe Dispenza has this?
Yeah. Yeah.
No
He's got
idea.
like 3 supplements, and I was just wondering if anyone's come across them and looked at the ingredients.
Never knew about them.
Yeah.
Never knew about them. You know, um, some of these ideas are Joe's, you know, I took from Joe's work, especially about the neurotransmitters. I don't know that much about, didn't know that much about neurotransmitters, and I gathered them from that information from other people as well. But Joe Dispenza has got a series called Rewired on Gaia TV that is absolutely brilliant. It may not be anything that you haven't already picked up. This was the case for me. I already knew everything he was teaching, but he teaches it in such a beautifully circumspect way that is so clear and beautifully articulated and illustrated, that I just really admire his work. I just love him, always have. And he was one of the people who informed me about gamma, you know, many years ago. Yeah. So I love his work on gamma as well. Yeah, he's a treat. A happy puppy dog there, ain't Paula? So any comments from anyone else about that meditation?
It was very beautiful, thank you. And one of my insights from it was that love happens in the present moment. And animals typically live in the present moment too.
Certainly Paula's did. Yes, that's a wonderful insight. Beautiful. Yes, and this whole idea of slowing brainwave frequencies so we can live in the present moment, and in that presence of love. You know, I thought that's what people would say, is that I'm always so busy and my mind is running at such incredible speeds that I don't slow down enough into my heart. But nobody actually said that. So maybe I'm the only one who has that experience of not living in love 100% of the time, or the awareness, not living. I mean, I think I live in love, but being aware of the feeling of love, that's what causes the coherence. So, yeah.
Oh, so Judith, are you saying that having the awareness of the feeling causes the coherence?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, just as Michael's just said, when you have the awareness, you are living in the present moment of love. You're living in that sweet spot, where nothing in the conscious mind is distracting you about what needs to happen in the future or what happened in the past. But it's the feeling of love. That is what makes all the difference.
What a wonderful perspective, or learning to start to apply, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
notice what changes, notice what shows up that's different.
And in fact, in that Bridge of Angels meditation I showed you, that was my big aha, because part of the meditation, the end of the meditation, it asks you to recognize what were the qualities of your higher self and what had become your qualities as you embraced yourself as an angelic being. And then you bring that back to the bridge, all the angels disappear, and you're asked to meditate for a few moments on imagining what your life would be like if you were to bring that feeling, those qualities into your everyday human life. And that was my big aha. Well, if I just lived in love and walked in love all the time, that I would be living in my higher self, that higher consciousness, which I spend my life evolving toward, is just right there.
Yes.
And love is the catalyst for that shift.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I hope this has been useful to you guys. And
I've loved it.
wonderful,
Absolutely loved. Yeah,
wonderful.
absolutely loved.
Appreciate your feedback. Yeah, I mean, we learned some really important things here. Of course, the ego, it is the ego saying, I have to do this. I can't live in love. I must go do this. But I think it's really important what Gary and Donna and Oksana also brought up is that there are blocks. We have blocks, and those blocks can be, I'm not worthy of living in love, or I don't, I'm not a loving person, or nobody loves me. There could be all manner of blocks. But the beauty of it is, and I hope that this program has brought that up and out, is that yes, you can certainly tap. There's a mechanical means, there's an acupressure, meridians that will clear those self-perceptions. But you're also a Taurus and already connected with this infinite light that just washes it all away. So if you're able to arouse love, become more coherent, vibrate that into your brain, vibrate that into your field, and just say, let all hindrances fall away. I mean, I just did that during the meditation, circulating light, and I had this violent, I've had it for 2 weeks, sinus headache, and the thing alleviated by 50% when I circulated that light into my head, so we are beings of light, aren't we? We are spiritual beings. These bodies, they're just a physical manifestation. So we can clear it out on the energetic level. And that energy is omnipresent for us to do that for us.
Wonderful.
So
I've loved it. Thank you so much.
excellent, excellent. And much love to you all in this
Yes.
month of love and all the coming months too.
Yes.
Anybody have any last moments, comments to make before we sign off?
Look at Paula's love.
Well, more of a question, perhaps, or an observation. In my explorations, I've come across people who don't feel. They can't feel, and some of these are in other ways, very advanced people, and often very brilliant. I'm thinking of one in particular who he's a spiritual guru to many, many people. And he does a variation of this heart coherence thing in meditation, which is extremely effective. It's actually conscious breathing in rhythm to the heartbeat, and you learn to feel your own heart and coordinate a rhythmic breath to it, and you go very quickly into a heart rhythm coherence as you defined it, and it also brings awareness into the heart field too. So in working with this in a group setting for a period of time, I saw people and experienced it myself, activating an actual sensation of love centered in the chest here. And it was very much reached out and included and connected with quite a conscious level until then of this interconnected web of love amongst a group of people. The interesting thing is that a lot of people got it, and some people didn't at all. And even the teacher of this had said, he grew up not being a feeling person. And we talked about that together a little bit. But I've wondered in your work if you've encountered this, because it would be a hindrance in catching the flow of what you're doing in a meditation, I would think. And, and I've run into other people like this. I remember a friend who was going through some stuff, and he was clearly a very angry person at this point, and he had good reason to be. But he was all off kilter, mostly because he couldn't even feel his anger. And I could hear it in his voice, you know, and I would kind of mirror back what I was experiencing or feeling for him. And he just said, well, it's hard to deal with anger if you're not feeling it, you see. And so you were wondering, why don't I walk around in love all the time? You know, maybe we just haven't learned how to feel it at that level. And this is part of the process, perhaps.
You know, you bring
Part
up
of what an awakened mind.
you bring up a wonderful point here. You just gave me an aha about somebody that I've been trying for 30 years to make realize the extent of the anger and the tone of the voice, which is very difficult for me because I'm a musician, so tone tone has a physical effect on me. And you know, it never occurred to me that he doesn't feel his anger. And I can see now that that must be it, because doesn't believe that behavior is there. So yeah, that really makes sense. You know, so again, I think that this is about unification of the body, mind, and spirit. And so as to why some people are like that, well, I mean, they did find out, this is on the far end of the extreme end of the spectrum of what we're talking about, that violent offenders had all manner of separation anxiety, all sorts of psychological problems, and they were not processing positive emotions at all. And but after a certain number of meditation sessions, this goes back to the Penrose work that's ancient in the 60s, after a certain number of brainwave sessions where they went down into alpha theta and moved out of the crazy and the beta, that they were able to connect with a concept of themselves, an aspect of themselves they didn't know existed. And once they were able to do that, then their brains rewired so that thought and feeling began to travel not to the right prefrontal cortex, which is the center of negative emotions, but to the left prefrontal cortex. And so meditation in itself has a warming effect. And now he did it through biofeedback meditation, but since then, Richard Davidson, neuroscientist, has done a ton of work in this field and has found that the warming does happen. The warming toward feelings does happen simultaneously with the rewiring of those pathways from the right to the left prefrontal cortex. And so that's one thing. But then other than that, I would be tempted to take them into an awakened mind meditation and say, remember the last time you felt truly happy. Remember the last time you felt love for someone. Remember the last time you felt love for yourself, and try to reconnect them with those feelings and then take them forward in time and say, when did you stop loving yourself? When did you stop feeling? And then work with whatever that sensitizing or precipitating issue was, because it's there. Unless they came into this life like that. I mean, they could have been born like that, but even, you know, people through meditation and hypnosis can go back into pre-life situations, or at least imagine pre-life situations that give them their answers. I would be tempted to dig for it. But the truth is that silent meditation should rewire them. And if they trip into that energy, that will speed up. You know, I didn't even talk about gamma and conditioning neuroplasticity, but certainly if they trip into those higher frequencies, that should help that rewiring happen. That's quite an aha you just gave me.
Judith, may I say a word and kind of round it up? Because I see that Doug beautifully answered even himself along the way. Because to me, what I picked out of the whole speech, it was, we'll learn love from experience, from connection, from human connection, warm, accepting human connection. You can replace unconditional love with acceptance or warmth. And from my experience, again, any memories of unconditional love, acceptance, warmth, including if we don't have connection with pets, kids, other people, strong symbols like the sun and the sunlight and the sun warmth brings theta, brings this feeling of love, brings or resembles it at least. And to continue the row, I mentioned that before. In Vedas, they say, you know, we think God as a person. What if it's not the person? Just think of a beauty. We have inbuilt sense of beauty, and it's another door. We have inbuilt sense of gratitude, and that's another door to love. It's another door to everything. And then, as Doug again mentioned himself, as many, one of the blocks, so as many blocks that we face, very often we face unreleased other feelings, negative, that we judge. It comes from judgment. As soon as we set up this judgment filter of reality, and in Buddhism and other traditions, again, you'll know, it's us who are perceiving and coloring this world into black, white, pink, whatever color. But normally we do black, white and say, this is good, this is bad, this is negative, this is positive. But if we change our perception and start saying, there is no negative per se, you know, darkness is the absence of light. You know, there are no evil people. It's just absence of love in them. So and as soon as you start kind of really getting this concept, it's the absence, it's lack of something. These people are not evil, they are weak. They lack something they couldn't receive, didn't find the ways, it didn't happen historically. So as soon as you get this idea, you will understand, just open the door, start removing the blocks. It's there, and then you'll see the light. Because it is
I
there.
love Paula's insight that the waves of love are always moving toward us. That was it. That's it.
Can I just say,
Just
like,
love it.
the population that I work with in the residential treatment facility, a lot of them I can't start out with love when I'm doing heart rate variability. And I think one of the reasons is because they're very egocentric and very guarded. And I never understood, you know, we always hear that fear is the opposite of love. And I didn't really understand that until I worked with this population. Like, you would think, okay, hate is the opposite of love. But these folks are so fearful that the first thing I do when I'm working with heart rate variability isn't have them project feelings of love or you know, even to an animal is threatening to them, because they have all kinds of negative, you know, like what if the animal, you know, is hurt. They have all kinds of, you know, fears connected even to nature, you know, like, oh, it might be a nice day today, but, you know, what if it's not nice tomorrow? So one of the things that I do with them is I have them start with a sense of inner ease. So when they expected something that was going to be hard was actually pretty easy to recreate that feeling. So that's one that I do. And then I have them project a sense of gratitude that this day, right now, they are safe. And the safety, I think, helps them get beyond that fear, so that they can start then incorporating love.
And we can all think about that for ourselves. Gratitude for this, as Michael said, present moment. Well, I am grateful for this present moment and all of your insights and wisdom. Thank you for being here, and hope that we remember that our biofields are what's going to create world peace. Our interlinked biofields with one another. That's the only ways we're going to get planetary peace and love. So begins with us, doesn't it? And then it's just going to spread from one person to another, one nation to another. I wish you happy meditation toward that goal. Thanks for being here. See you next time.